friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going In Raw News Brief. We're going to try to keep this one brief today, but quick announcement. There will be no music live stream from Larson tonight. He's got stuff to do.
Unfortunately not, no.
And I will be doing my Unsolved Mysteries live stream over at twitch.tv/Steven Larson. Check it out. If you have Amazon Prime, we're going to look for horses. And even if you don't have Amazon Prime, I've got a link to a YouTube version of the video you can watch. I'll post in the chat, so you can still watch along. It's a lot of fun for everybody. Twitch.tv/Steven Larson. First up, this is some pretty big news, and you might notice that this sequence here is out of... We're actually filming this an hour after we filmed what's going to come later in the episode. But this is a pretty big deal. So earlier, I don't know, it was at about 4:30 or so. Let's see. This was a tweet that went out 40 minutes ago, which would have been around 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 Eastern. The WWE issued this statement. In an effort to streamline our creative writing process for television, we have consolidated both teams from Raw and Smackdown into one group led by Bruce Prichard. Paul Heyman will concentrate on his role as an in-ring performer.
Interesting.
This is pretty shocking, man. Paul Heyman, the head writer, the executive director of Raw, is now relegated to talent, a role that he really doesn't have to fill that often. However, I wonder if they might, this is completely like speculation, maybe they'll start using him more often as a talent as opposed to simply keeping with Brock, or maybe this is just a, hey, we'll call you when we need you.
Who knows?
Thing.
I mean, we
can't tell.
Yeah, who knows? We have heard extensively that being a writer in WB is an exhausting job because you're on call pretty much 24/7. And Heyman has been doing this for about a year. It was last summer that Heyman came aboard as executive director of Raw. So, as far as the turnover rate for WB writers, granted, Heyman, he's a legend in the pro wrestling industry, not just for what he's done in front of the camera, but also what he's done behind the camera. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, that job is tough.
No, it is. Tough. But this is because of the ratings.
Probably.
Raw's ratings are in the toilet right now. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the breakdown from this past Monday, man. And it's ugly. Hour 1, 1.83 million. Hour 2, 1.79 million. Hour 3, 1.6 million. Yeah,
the drop in the third hour is bad, but it's not like SmackDown's ratings are great either.
They've held steady though.
Yeah.
I mean, are they great? No, but they haven't dipped on average. I don't think they've dipped below 2 million. They haven't, and that's one thing, the bone of contention between Fox and USA in terms of the thing where they were going to bring back the wild card rule. Fox was saying, hey, we're actually kind of happy with our ratings, all things considered. We don't want to be giving USA viewers.
Here's the last month for SmackDown. Average for May 1st, average 1.88 million. May 8th, just a little bit above 2. Mm-hmm. Same with May 15th, same with May 22nd, May 29th, 2.1, and just last week it was 1.9.
Okay, so the fact they've been treading water around 2 million, I know they're probably not enthusiastic about it, but Raw has been on a free fall since pandemic happened. And just for my own personal taste, and I'm pretty sure you can, I can speak for you on this one, SmackDown's been a better show.
Yeah, it has been a more enjoyable show of late.
Creatively speaking, they have utilized their talent better. And this doesn't, I don't know, the way the statement reads, it feels like this is a WWE decision as opposed to a Paul Heyman decision.
Yeah, obviously. But, he is...
I'm not saying it's not hard. It could be burnout, could be the reason why the creative has been bad. I agree.
Totally.
I agree with that.
It would be the first time back in 2003 when he was head writer of SmackDown. I think his tenure there lasted about a year as well.
Yeah, sure.
So, it is a tough job, whether this was a mutual decision exclusively on WWE's part or whatever the case may be. Writing for WWE television, writing for Vince is tough. So, who knows if burnout or being overworked played any role in this whatsoever, or if it's strictly a matter of we see these numbers for Raw on paper. This isn't what we want. We blame creative for this. Therefore, Heyman, sorry. You're going to be exclusively Brock Lesnar's advocate going forward. Who knows?
Yeah. I'm sure. I would imagine next week's newsletter will probably have some more info on this. Maybe subscribe to Fightful Select. Sean Ross Sapp over there, he's pretty well tuned in. He might have some info on this. This is going to be a very interesting story.
What they call a developing story.
There you go. So I'm about to say, Larson, we have some news on AJ Styles. So why don't we just go ahead and do that? We've got some AJ Styles news. Is that right, Larson?
We do. Reacting to a tweet from CM Punk. You have tweet up, Steve. Will you read those, please?
Sure, yeah. So Forbes.com, when this first happened, had a rundown of exactly what was going on. But in response to a lot of the stuff going on in the world, CM Punk tweeted out this little thing that was intended to maybe, talk about celebrities, people who are commenting on the state of the world. And he said this. I'll just let his words speak for him. A lot of people snitching on themselves. When people tell you who they are, believe it. Might be unfortunate and disappointing if you're a fan of that person or if it's your grandmother, but F them. Goodbye. I yield my time. F you. So, people's true colors might shine through during times like this. You find out who they are, I think, is the point that he's trying to make there. I'm just taking a guess. Twitter user Titan9 chimed in. And, obviously CM Punk, connected to the wrestling world, related this in wrestling terms. He said, right? Silence speaks volumes. Seeing AJ Styles promote streams and shit, but couldn't be bothered to post anything, made it clear how he feels. That was a tough unfollow. Now, you can kind of read between the lines and think that, hey, maybe the fact that this person thinks, this person feels, that because AJ Styles hasn't said anything about what's going on in the world, that he might feel a certain way that he doesn't want to discuss or disclose. CM Punk then responded, well, come on, that one has been obvious for years. Y'all can read between the lines on that one. And of course, he was asked about this from, I believe, the Times of India.
Correct.
AJ was, that is.
Yes, he was. And this is his response. Quote, I will not react at all coming from a guy like that who I don't respect anyway. It doesn't really matter. Look, my job as performer is perform and get fans' minds off all the things that have happened throughout the world. I'm not going to react to people saying ridiculous and stupid things.
Yeah, that I wonder what the I mean, look, what CM Punk and AJ Styles, they've crossed paths before, not in WWE,
but a Ring of Honor,
and then maybe briefly in TNA when TNA, Punk was there.
Punk was there for a little bit. Yeah, they've had several matches, I think, in Ring of Honor.
Yeah. So, man, I don't think they're going to be on backstage together anytime soon. There's my dog chiming in all that. So yeah, that might be an awkward segment.
No appearances together for a while.
I would think not. Who else might not be on backstage with AJ Styles? Randy Orton. Although this one's a bit more lighthearted than some of the deep undertones of the CM Punk conversation. Randy Orton was on the latest After the Bell podcast. That's with Corey Graves.
Correct.
This sounds like a must listen. I'll be honest with you, because if they got to this conversation, I kind of want to know where else they went. Randy is a straight shooter these days.
Plane. Yeah, no. They did talk about Randy Orton not actually buying a plane.
Oh, he didn't. So he was just clowning.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he loves to troll. That's the thing about Randy Orton. He does not care. So he said this about AJ and his respective science or lack thereof. He said, AJ, quote, AJ is a flat earther. He thinks the earth's flat. I like that he has to clarify. He's a flat earther. He thinks the earth's flat. And I know that's just a really comical topic to talk about, and I give him shit about it, and he hates it. No, it's not a rib. He thinks the earth's flat.
Those transcripts are from Cage Side Seats.
Now, if you guys recall, on Talking Smack a couple of years ago, Daniel Bryan, with a giant snarky grin on his face, asked AJ Styles the same thing point blank. He said, "Don't you think the Earth is flat?" And AJ was
got to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, AJ was a heel at the time, so it was kind of appropriate for Daniel Bryan to give him some static, because that's what Talking Smack was all about. It was very off the cuff. That was a great show. They really need to bring it back in that incarnation. So yeah, apparently that wasn't just part of his heel persona. Flat earther heel AJ Styles, Randy Orton has no problems calling him out on that.
Yeah.
And apparently Tama Tonga. Let's talk about him, because he's great.
He is great.
Apparently he almost went to the WWE as well.
Correct. That's what he revealed in the latest episode of his podcast back in 2016. So around the time that AJ, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, and Shinsuke Nakamura all went to WWE, he apparently was on the verge of doing the same himself, going so far as having a meeting with Triple H and verbally agreeing to a deal.
Whoa.
But ultimately, he returned to New Japan because they agreed to sign his brother.
Oh, wow.
This is what he said. His podcast transcripts are from Wrestle Talk. Quote, Fale told them, I think if you bring his brother, he'll stay. So when we went to the arena for our match, Hattori called me. He goes, "Hey, man, we'll bring your brother." And I was like, what? I've been trying to get my brother in so we could tag team for the past 2 years. And it was always no. And rightfully so, because there's no room for him. And then they called me into their office the following day. I came in, "We'll bring your brother." And they laid out a deal for me. I said, all right. So previously, when he was talking about, going to and meeting with WWE, he's friends with Matt Bloom, who wrestled in Japan for a number of years. And he was kind of the connection that brought, Tama Tonga to the negotiating table with WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about in the same podcast having to call Matt Bloom and break the news to him that he wasn't coming, emailing the recruiter who maybe was a point of contact as well, and letting them know that he would not be actually signing his contract.
Yeah.
But it's worked out well for him. I don't know what he would have done at WWE, where the Guerrillas of Destiny are the most dominant tag team in New Japan and have been for the last 4 years, basically.
If they couldn't figure out what to do with Gallows and Anderson on a consistent basis, which they never were, they had highs and a lot of lows.
Yeah.
There's no way they ever would have figured out Tama Tonga. I find that very, very difficult to believe, because in 2016, it's not like he was the name that he is now. He might have been hot shit, but that was right on the precipice of the big New Japan explosion here in the States. And that's when, his name really blew up. So, I don't know. I do think that it's getting to the point where the Guerrillas of Destiny have done pretty much everything they can do in New Japan. It wouldn't shock me at all to see if those guys eventually landed in WWE in some way, shape, or form. But there's also, maybe I don't know. In 2016, he was willing to go, so I'm not sure loyalty is necessarily a thing either. So, probably wherever the paycheck is, he'd be willing to listen at least.
Yeah, I would think so.
So this is kind of interesting. We've sort of eased up on talking about the weekly ratings from AEW and NXT, but the last couple of weeks has shown a bit of a trend where it's sort of the gap is closing a little bit in terms of the regular week to week, what we are to expect.
By and large, it's pretty much a dead heat in terms of who's winning the Wednesday Night Wars these days. So the numbers this week, you got AEW with 677,000, a .23 in the all-important 18 to 49 demo. That's all that really matters ultimately. And then 673,000 for NXT, .61 in the 18 to 49 demo. So AEW squeaked out a small victory in terms of viewership, but a pretty significant victory when it comes to the 18 to 49 demo. That's the demo advertisers care about to pay those ad rates. That's why they're so important.
Yeah, but they're really narrowing that gap in the overall viewership. It's just kind of interesting. Last week, the numbers for both are down from last week. It was like in the 750s, 775, I think it was, something like that. But yeah, no, I don't know. It's kind of interesting to check in on the trend, every once in a while and see what's going on. But yeah, they're closing that gap. NXT has done a lot in terms of, I don't know, freshening up their product a little bit. We're still in a really weird, the whole empty arena era thing. I think that, the perception of the payoff of FTR coming in without that, because that crowd would have been going ape. They would have been going crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And that kind of visual, and like the Tyson thing, which I think was kind of cheesy, but the crowds really make the spectacle, they make it look big. And without that, it's like, do you really get the full effect of what could be happening in wrestling right now? And I kind of think
full effect, no, but you got to take what you can get.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it'll just be interesting once that stuff comes back. But it's also just kind of interesting to see where AEW is creatively now that we've had 8 months of it, where NXT is now, and then where the ratings are in terms of reflecting that. So, so yeah, cool stuff. Anyways, I want to say thanks to everybody for watching. We appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow. Whoa, my camera went away. That's weird. That never happens. Whoa, that was crazy. Anyways, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you guys later.
Goodbye.
Weird things afoot here.